Writers, let's continue to revise our papers through the lens of a historian. I talked to you a few days ago about the fact that historians don't just reread their writing to be sure they've written with the qualities of good writing. They also reread to be sure they've kept in mind the qualities of good history. And attentiveness to time and place is a part of that. Now that you've thought about places, you're ready to shift and think about time. The good news is that you are already accustomed to using timelines as tools for thoughts in your paper. Let's get our timeline muscles going by thinking of the simple story Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You all know it. Go ahead and turn to your partner and think about the events that happens in the story and try to put them in chronological order from the beginning to the end. Stop, turn to your partner, and discuss. How did you and your partner do? Hopefully you came up with something similar to the picture on this screen. Now, I want you to think about the events that happen in this story and ask yourself, how is this event related to another event or more than one event that comes earlier in the story or earlier in the timeline? Could you connect any of these statements to each other? For example, you may have drawn an arrow from number 6 to number 7. Maybe you said, the bears came home and discovered Goldilocks, and that connects with number 7 because the bears coming home caused Goldilocks to run out of the house. That is called a cause and effect connection. Today I want to remind you that when you write and revise as a historian, it is important to keep in mind not only qualities of good writing, but also qualities of good history. For example, historians write about relationships between events because the past will always have an impact on what unfolds in the future. This is called a cause and effect relationship or connection. And here's another cool thing. A history writer can highlight relationships simply by having a timeline close by as they write. Writers, what you have come to realize these past few days is that writing research does not necessarily involve racing around like a kid in a candy shop, scooping up yet more and more information on a topic just to throw it into your report. If you are going to draw on maps as a resource, you don't need to Google Maps and download 20 of them. Instead, just one map of the U.S. alone can help you realize a lot about your topic. You just need to look closely and think deeply. Writing research is really about studying sources carefully and seeing more in them than most people will see. Today I want to help you realize that you already have the skills necessary to think deeply about the timeline of history. You are going to use this westward expansion timeline on the screen to help revise your paper. Let's take a closer look at it. Do any of the events on this timeline relate to each other? Do any events on your paper relate to each other? Do you see any cause and effect connections or relationships? When you use a timeline to revise your paper, don't just add facts. Think to yourself, might this have caused any other historical events? Might it be likely in any other events? History writers revise by asking questions, studying geography, like maps, and looking for patterns and changes across a timeline of events. Let's add this new skill to our chart. Revise with various lenses, growing ideas, looking for patterns, and asking questions, thinking about how the geography of the place impacted how the events unfolded, thinking and speculating, thinking about how the timeline or time of history impacted how the events unfolded. Today and from this day on, whenever you write about history, I hope you'll remember that you can reread your writing and look at it through the lens of everything you know about good writing, asking, is this well detailed? Is this well structured? And things like that. But you can also reread your writing by looking at it through the eyes of a historian. You can ask yourself, have I brought out the places of geography? Have I brought out the events placed in the timeline of history? And the very best thing to do is not only record the place and the time, but to use maps and timelines as tools to think about your topic and to make it grow. Now it is time to get to work. Go ahead and revise your paper one last time, making sure the Western expansion events are in order chronologically. If it helps, go ahead and make a timeline first. Your teacher will pass out a copy of the Western Expansion timeline.